In this lesson, we're going to talk about two rules, the distributive rule for products and then the distributive rule for quotients. So this first sheet is on the distributive rule for products. So if you'll notice, the first example has already been done for you. So you started off with 2 times 3 in parentheses cubed. So see how they've expanded it out. That means 3 groups of 2 times 3. And then because it's all multiplication, the parentheses can be dropped. So the parentheses were dropped and they rearranged the numbers. So they put all the 2's together and all the 3's together. Because remember, it doesn't matter what order you multiply in. So we have 3 2's and 3 3's. So that's where the 2 cubed and the 3 cubed came from. And that's it. So let's try another one. So for the next one, it's 4 times 6 in parentheses to the 4th power. So I'm going to have 4 groups of 4 times 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I can drop my parentheses and I can put all the 4's together and all the 6's together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is that going to be? So that's 4 to the 4th power times 6 to the 4th power. And that's it. Let's try another one. If I have x times y to the 5th, so I'm going to have 5 groups of x times y. And I'm going to write it like this. Actually, you know what? I'm not. I'll write it just as they've done it. So I have 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, and 5 groups. And again, I can drop the parentheses and rearrange it so all the x's are together and all the y's are together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 x's being multiplied together and 5 y's being multiplied together. So that would be x to the 5th times y to the 5th. That's it. Let's try another one. So this next one, I have 2 groups of 3 times 4 times 5. 3 times 4 times 5 times 3 times 4 times 5. Again, I'm going to drop my parentheses and rearrange. So I'm going to put the 3's together, the 4's together, and the 5's together. So that's going to be the same as 3 squared times 4 squared times 5 squared. We got one more example. 3x to the 6th power. So notice the 3x, that whole thing is in parentheses. So I'm going to have 6 groups of 3x being multiplied together. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember that 3x means 3 times x, so I can still rearrange it so all the 3's are together and all the x's are together. So I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I've got 6 3's, so that's 3 to the 6th, and 6 x's times x to the 6th. So what's going on here with this rule? So if you're paying attention to the exponents, what's happening here? You've probably already noticed that that exponent is kind of being distributed or attached to everything inside of the parentheses. So what is the general rule? We're going to distribute the exponent to everything inside the parentheses, exactly what we just said. Or maybe you want to say give instead of distribute. The exponent to everything inside the parentheses. So why would this be called the distributive rule? Because you're distributing or giving the exponent. the exponent that is outside of the parentheses. And how is this different from the product rule? So in the product rule, remember that you ended up adding your exponents, and that's not the case here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. In the product rule, you add. The exponents. So how can I write this rule algebraically? So you start off with two numbers inside the parentheses or more being, so I'm going to say I have two numbers, x times y, two different values inside the parentheses. You may have more than two. And then they are carried to an exponent outside of the parentheses, which we'll call m. So if you're distributing that exponent, that's going to be the same as x to the m times y to the m. So that is your rule for this particular one. Okay, let's go to the next page. Now this one is the distributive rule for quotients. And so you'll see here the first example's been done. But you may notice that this one is very similar, okay, to the last one. So this one you had the quotient 2 over 3, or 2 divided by 3, all to the 4th power, which means 4 groups of 2/3 being multiplied together. That's what you have here, which is the same as, because there are 4 2's right here, so that's the same as 2 to the 4th over 3 to the 4th. So what's happening on this next one? So I have 3 to the 5th, so I'm going to put that in my parentheses. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, so that's all to the 6th power. So that's going to be, there are 6 3's being multiplied together, so it's 3 to the 6th power over 5 to the 6th power. And that's all that is. The next one, they're having you work backwards. So you have 8 to the 6th power divided by 2 to the 6th power. So there's a few different ways you could do this. So for this one, well, I said there's a few different ways. That's actually not true. But I'm going to have 8 over 2 6 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so how did that start off? It must have started off with 8 over 2 all to the 6th power like that. Okay, this next one has some variables. So I have 2x all divided by 9 to the 3rd power. So if I expand it out, that's 2x over 9 multiplied by itself 3 times. Okay, so that's 2x times 2x times 2x, which we know is going to be 2 cubed times x cubed over, and it's going to be over 9 cubed. So everything got that exponent of 3. Okay, the next one we have an answer, 3 to the 10th power times a to the 10th over 12 to the 10th b to the 10th. So that must have been 3a over 12b being multiplied by itself 10 times. I'm going to write 10 groups here, okay? So there are 10 groups of this, all right? So what did it look like to begin with then? It must have been 3a over 12b all to the 10th power. And then the last one we have a over b all to the nth, quantity to the nth power. So at this point we know it's going to be a to the nth power over b to the nth. So what is that rule? What are we doing here? It's the same, basically the same rule that we put here. Give the exponent to everything inside the parentheses. So that's what we're going to write here. give the exponent to everything inside the parentheses. Okay? And then why do we call this the distributive rule for quotients? So we're giving the exponent to everything, every exponent or every piece inside of the quotient. Okay, so you are giving, well, maybe I should say, you are giving or distributing, maybe let's say distributing. The exponent to each piece, that's in quotation marks, of the quotient. So what's the algebraic rule going to look like here? So you're going to have something in parentheses, some division or some quotient in parentheses. So we'll say x divided by y, all carried to the m power. And all we're saying is that's the same as x over m divided by y over y to the m power. This is your rule for this. Okay, so now you're ready to try your independent practice. So once you've completed the independent practice, again, check your answers using the answer key. Use a different color to check your answers. If you got it right, give yourself a check. If you did not get it right, don't be discouraged. But do give yourself an X and write down next to the problem what the correct answer should be. And if you don't understand, then make a note so that you can ask your teacher. Good luck today.